Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum, the great propagators. Alhamdulillah, man. Powerful stuff between Hijra and the propagators and many others. I got to mention Wilmore Siddiqui with all of his great vocals, instrumentals, and children's songs and adult songs. Really, really. We got to, I don't know, somebody got to package that up, keep that rocking and rolling. That's largely what that's a large part of what we're talking about because we don't want to get into the notion that culture is only that aesthetic, food, clothing, music, poetry, art. That's a part of it, what they do. But I'm getting into the subject now. So let's do that because we change our time frame for that. So let's carry on. Welcome to all Blog Talk, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Glad you're here. Let's go back to. Let's try to do a quick summary of where we've gone so far. The thesis for these subjects for the past, let's call it a month. Well, since the 18th of since after the 18th of July, which was when we presented our portion on Study al-Islam, and I should say also coming up Sunday, Study al-Islam, I will be presenting on demystifying Satan, demystifying the idea of Satan and the like. That's 7 o'clock Pacific time. I believe it's 10 o'clock East Coast time. So let's cover some of the things that we've said. I think it's appropriate for me this morning to bring up a quote that gets left out. First, the core quote for it all from Imam Muhammad rahimahullah is, and even before that, the core verse for what we're aiming at, what we're seeking to direct your attention to, is وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Let there arise out of you an ummah. But we are understanding the application of that term ummah to mean, formally speaking, culture. So let there arise out of you a culture, and a culture that is instantiated by, formed of, the substance of which is تَعْمَرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, calling to all that is good, يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, calling to all that is good, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong. That is all of the values that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for and in creation, and for and in the human being. That's the ummah. Bring out of yourself that, like that bumblebee and the silkworm, what comes out of them is their own housing, their own housing, and the benefits that come from that. That's how we're supposed to be as human beings. But for us, it's the product of our mind, our thinking, our intellect, and our innate potentials. Those are things that we have to develop inside of ourselves, and then project them and formulate them and formalize them outside of ourselves. Just like I mentioned about Hijra and the propagators, and of course we have others, that these are artifacts of culture. Clothing is an artifact of culture. Food is an artifact of culture. Music, literature, art, quote unquote, and I'm using that term music loosely because I agree with the concept of how words distract us. All right, but since that's the one we're familiar with, I'll mention it, but with that qualification. So we need cultural scientists in all dimensions, because governance is a part of culture, economics is a part of culture, academics, or the academic aspect, education, is a part of culture, and of course, religion and everything that goes with that. To put that quaternary divide on it is all a part of it. Okay, so we have to understand it, because culture is always, we can even say culture is forever. Culture is always. Culture is never absent. Culture is a womb, and it is always emitting influences that are making impressions on its inhabitants. Okay, and habit is inside of that term. But before I take a step further down the road, since you understand that concept, we read again Imam Muhammad's core statement for these presentations. He says, this is from his book, which he mentioned during the portion we played this morning, from As the Light Shineth in the East. He says, the cultural trends in America reveal the satanic operation of manipulative principle covertly operating in the culture, influencing the cultural thinking by the operation of such covert principle. Covert means hidden. Such covert principle, the culture swings in pendulum from oppressive states to liberal states, bringing us a taste of the good times followed by a taste of hell. Near the bottom of the arc, in the pendulum's swoop, social chaos and aberrant morality. Aberrant means, crazy, freakish, what have you. Aberrant morality. This operation deceives the moral and rational vision in the common public. That's to say, most people have no idea of what's going on and what's influencing these events in the society. The operation deceives the moral and rational vision in the common public and deny all Americans the freedom our nation proclaims. That's the end of quote. So the Imam is pointing out a satanic operation using manipulative principles covertly in the culture. All right, so there are things going on in the culture that most people in the culture don't know. And when we say most people, we mean 99.9% of the people. Now, there's a quote that I want to bring from an author that came from a documentary that she did. Her name is Lauren Greenfield. Lauren, Lauren, Greenfield, Greenfield. The title of her piece is Generation Wealth. Generation Wealth. Quoting her, she says, authentic culture can provide us a way to think critically about what's around us. Thinking critically, I'm stepping into the quote, I'm going back to that statement, thinking to think critically. Think critically means to critique, criticize, analyze, bring up consciously things that you see in the culture. Oh, what is this? Oh, why is this doing this? Oh, where did this come from? Oh, who's behind this? Oh, what's behind that? Etc. So that's thinking critically. So authentic culture can provide us a way to think critically about what's around us, meaning that you have to be a part of a culture that critiques culture, right? That thinks critically about culture. She says of her work, she says, my work is about having a way to deconstruct culture around us, deconstruct the culture around us, right? So to deconstruct the culture means to take it apart, see how it's assembled and how it operates. I think about an automobile, the transmission is structured in a certain way, the motor is structured in a certain way, the axle is structured in a certain way, and they all cooperate with each other in a certain way in order for the vehicle to function as it does. Okay, well, it's the same way with culture. What are the mechanisms of culture? What are the structures of culture? What is the machinery of culture? And culture as a vehicle, where is it taking us? Where is it going? Who's at the steering wheel? What fuels it, etc. These things are the things that we need to know about culture. All right. So she says, my work is about having a way to deconstruct the culture. We could say another way, simplifying that even as well, is to wake up. All you have to do is just wake up. And that's a big deal. And that's why some of these fantasy science fiction flicks, it's all about waking up and going to sleep. Who's awake? who's asleep, right? The having a way to deconstruct the culture around us so we can kind of see the matrix. You know that. I don't need to say anything about that. You can kind of see the matrix that we are in, and hopefully, and this is the key, have a little agency over it. To have a little agency over it means that to have some power over the culture. That the culture doesn't have all the power over you, but you have power over the culture. But you won't be able to have power over the culture until you can think critically about the culture and deconstruct the culture. That's where your power is going to arise from. And indeed, that's where our freedom comes from. Okay. So I want you to think about culture as a phenomena. Think about culture as a phenomena. Don't think about culture the way you think you know culture, right? Just think about culture as a product of human existence. Culture as a product of human. One of the things that human beings produce is culture, right? Now, the culture that a human being produces is not always good, right? Nor is it always bad, but it is always. Culture is always. So in terms of, I'm sorry, I need to make one minor adjustment right quick. Think on that last thought. Be right back. All right, I'm back. So, we're saying culture. Think on culture in that way. Now, so thinking of culture as a phenomena. And again, I want to remind you, when I say that word, and when you hear that word in our conversation, don't automatically and reflexively, that is knee-jerk reaction, reflexively think you already know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I'm decomposing, deconstructing, thinking critically about this environment that we're surrounded by. There's a saying, the last one to know about the water is the fish. The last one to know about the water is the fish. And we, to that extent, in a similar fashion, when we don't understand the nature of our culture, we are like a fish in water that we don't understand. And in fact, one of the quotes from Maps of Meaning, which is written by Dr. Jordan Peterson, we extract this quote. It says, something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture in its intrapsychic or internal manifestation. That is, culture gets inside of us. We call it acculturation. We call it socialization. We talk about internalizing. It comes into us, and literally before we know it. When we're born as children, from the ages of 0 to about 6, we're in what is called the hypnagogic state. We are only downloading what's in our environment. We're downloading, and that's what's shaping us and forming us on the inside. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, everyone is born on fitr, but it is their parents. The translator says their parents, but the Arabic says abawahu. The translation and expression of it is, it says there is the fathers. You can see the fathers. And the Quranic statement that we would rather follow the ways of our fathers is a statement that we're going to stick with the culture that we were acculturated with. And the Prophet said that abawahu, their culture makes them Jew, Christian, Magan, or otherwise. So the point is that we cannot see the culture in its intrapsychic and internal manifestation. That's why you have to wake up. You have to become conscious of What has shaped you? What has molded you? What have you imbibed? What have you internalized? How have you been socialized? And those values come out automatically. That internalization is reflexive. We respond automatically. It is habitual. There's what you call fixed action patterns, sign stimulus. That's very important. So the point is, it's habitual. The culture becomes our habits, and that's one of the reasons the environment is called habitat, and the culture is our environment, because that's where we get that's where we get our habits at, right? And inhabited, something is inhabited, meaning that the habits have gone inside and they are living inside of the source of their habits. So in any case, so he says, Dr. Peterson, the thing we cannot see is culture in its intrapsychic and internal manifestation. And the thing we do not understand is the chaos that gave rise to culture. If the structure of culture is disrupted, unwittingly, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. Now, the overall title of what we've been speaking under is Satan, Hypocrites, and History, and the Word of God. And so this is the existing culture, the culture that exists right now, the dominant culture that exists right now, is basically satanic. I just cut to the quick. It's a satanic culture, and it's been a satanic culture for a long time. The idea but most, again, just like reflexively, people have their ideas about what we mean when we say culture. People also have their reflexive ideas of what we mean when we say Satan. And so it's just going to continue to take some work to do that. And I remind you to join us for the Study al-Islam session this Sunday morning. We'll demystify some of these ideas about Satan. We're not going to elaborate deeply on it so much today as to speak about how it does what it does, meaning seeing the outworking of it, just like wind blowing in the trees. Let's put it this way. Just like a wind blowing in the tree. You won't see the wind, but you will see the tree blowing. So the tree blowing is the effects of the wind. So what we're talking about is the effects of culture, and the effects of Shaitan on the culture is a part of what we'll be speaking of this morning, continuing. Now, so I okay. I saw a movie day before yesterday, whatever. The Suicide Squad. It was part of that. Let's just call it transitional break time. Take a break, see a movie, blah blah. And so went to see the movie. And speaking about deconstructing in order to have a little sense of agency over it, deconstruct the culture around us so we can kind of see the matrix that we're in, and hopefully have a little agency over it. So let me say something with respect to that in conjunction with this movie. All right. So whatever. You have the normal Hitler trope. Everything is about what happened with Hitler and the Holocaust and all the rest of that. So much for that. So spoiler alert, but you gotta not let stuff be that important to you in the sense of like it ruins your day. But I will tell you, I'm about to give up. So whatever you got to do, if that means something to you, then close your ears, your eyes, or something. Anyway, I told you. So the point is that the ultimate monster, if you will, from it all, is a giant starfish with an eye in the eye in the center where the teeth should be, right? The teeth of a real starfish, right? But we can wind it back to all the different characters in there. They all have their own weirdness, whatever. They all have their own weirdness. But let me tell you a theme that I see running through the whole thing. First, it's a suicide. It's the Suicide Squad, right? Suicide means killing yourself. That's what it means. Killing yourself, suicide, self-destruction, right? And I think about the Gangs of New York movie, and there's a famous line inside of that that says, we never have to worry about the poor because we can always get one half of the poor to kill the other half. We can always get one half of the poor to kill the other half. So in terms of that, so killing yourself, and just like that movie, The Purge, I haven't seen it. Don't plan to see it. I don't need to see it because I've seen enough in the teasers. And then the whole timing of it was such that it was really, they literally, that Trumpist and the Trumpism and what have you. And hey, vote for whoever you want to vote for, like whoever you want to like, not like whoever you like. Hey, I'm not tripping on that part of it. The point is that everything was just timed in such a way where the tension on Capitol Hill and the tension on Main Street and the tension between the races and the hostility and the vociferous loss of what do you call it? The loss of etiquette, the loss of manners, the loss of civility, etc. That was the purge. You don't need to see on a silver screen. That was the purge. But that's the point. Again, a part of the underlying theme of what we're speaking to here: Satan, hypocrites, history, and the Word of God. Imam Muhammad pointed out in the first portion of the lecture portions that we played, he points out that history actually means culture for the Satans. And again, people do have these quote unquote spooky ideas about Satan, etc. Inshallah, we can bring that more down to earth, if you will. But the idea is that Satan is operating through quote unquote and in people. All right. So there's a reality and there's a manifest reality of it. There's reality in principle and there's reality in function and all that. Lots of that. We'll deal with that at another time. But the point is, the Imam made a statement in the very closing. It says, a part of the moving life of the history of society. I thought I had made a note of it. He spoke of being a part of the moving life of the history of society, something to that effect. When he said moving life of the history of society, what he's saying is that history is operating inside the culture, but history is also created by the people who manage the culture. And they use history as a way of managing the culture. So on one level, they create history through the culture and they manipulate the culture through the history. And so if I can convince you that this time is just like another time, then in that way, I can manipulate your behavior to act like you did in that other time. Since you're convinced that this time is just like that time, so therefore I can trigger back to sign stimulus, right? Fixed action pattern. Then I can trigger behavior in you. Isn't it interesting that's language that's out there now being used? Yeah, he's being triggered. He's being triggered. You don't know who's holding the pistol, and it's the pistol of language, right? So the point is that there again, it's about manipulating you right in your face. There's this prestidigitator, this psychological master manipulator, but he does it. His stuff is out there publicly. Darren Brown is his name. Darren Brown. You can look him up. I know it kind of sounds Bilalian, but he's a British guy, I believe. Any case, so he shows how he can just take plain paper, go into a store with plain paper, talk to the. This is jewelry. I'm talking about jewelry. Go in and buy jewelry with plain paper, just in a straight conversation with the person. And while the person is talking and while they're doing it, he pays the person with plain paper and walks out with the jewelry. That's why. How can he do that? Because of what he knows about the person that the person doesn't know about themselves. Because of what he knows about the nature of psychology, the nature of perception, and nature of human relations, etc. And by virtue of that, he's able to, that would otherwise be, because this is all filmed, and of course he doesn't keep the jewelry. But the point is, he's able to show how, if his mentality was purely criminal, he could literally just take that and that's that. And that's just one particular type of transaction. But he shows many other things. But all it is an illustration of how, when the human being is unconscious of their own mental mechanisms, then they can be very easily manipulated by someone who does understand their mental mechanisms and is able to, quote unquote, trigger those particular mechanisms to generate that behavior. The Imam said it in the lecture that we played. Of course, today was the third part of that. But so in the earlier portion, he talked about, look, the masses you can easily manipulate the masses. Once they become a herd and you want the herd to move in a certain direction, then all you do is fire a shot on the right and you got them running to the left. Fire a shot on the left and you got them running to the right. Fire a shot in front of them and you got them running away. Fire a shot behind them and you got them running in the opposite direction. Even if they are going to run off a cliff, the point is that the master manipulator, the one who has the control over the sights and sounds of the herd, they are able to control the herd. And that's precisely what our media-dominated culture actually does. Michael J. Parente, I mentioned to you, I'll mention again, Make-Believe Media. That's the title of the book. Make-Believe Media, the politics of entertainment, So what are we doing? Deconstructing the culture so that we can kind of see the matrix, so that we can have a sense of agency, a little sense of agency over it. This world it's not hard to manipulate this world once you have the magnitude of media control and dominance that the corporations and those who I think I call it, it's not that I think I call it, I do call it the triple threat: business, politics, and the media. Business, politics, and the corporation, the government, and the media. Those three together, it's like they are the big three that dominate society. Okay, so I was mentioning about Suicide Squad. So starfish, right? Starfish. What does the Imam say? The Imam said many years ago, he said Satan's arrogance is that he entertains himself by showing what he does. He puts it in your face and laughs at it. Just like I talked about Darren Brown, right? I got this by a piece of paper while you were standing there and you gave it to me for plain piece of paper. right? And so Shaitan is like, it's in your face, but since I know you're blind to it, then that's my entertainment. My entertainment is having fun at your expense, literally speaking. That's the satanic aspect of it. And what I'm speaking of is not just for entertainment, it's for power over the masses of people. And they pass that power on to the next generation. We talked about that in looking at the movie Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes, the one, whatever, the first one that was around 911. It was before 911 as we talked about it. Okay, so yeah, the starfish and the one-eyed thing. Okay, I mean, right there, the one-eyed thing, Monsters Inc., right? Monsters Inc. There's another one-eyed thing, and the name of the little creature is Michael, right? Michael, and Michael means God with us. Michael means God with us. That one-eyed thing goes all the way back to the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Horus, Horus, and all that means. The knowledge that is being used to dominate this society is that knowledge that the Pharaoh used to dominate the masses of that time. Pharaoh, as a term, is just used, is used, and Allah has revealed it to be the epitome, the archetype of oppression. The capital of Egypt is Cairo, Kahara. It has to do with oppression and dominance and the like. All pharaohs were not oppressors, etc. But that one that fits the category that is represented in the Quran, historically speaking, yes, they've earned the title of the ultimate of oppressors. So in that, so you have this whole one-eyed thing, right? So that's that one eye, God with us, Michael, God with us, and Monsters Inc. And this giant starfish is a monster, and Mike is a monster. Harley Quinn, which is that character, Harley Quinn, which also is the Joker. Okay, that's what a harlequin is a clown. But when on the playing cards, the Joker, harlequin is that. I mean, I haven't even taken the time to go do a deep dive on harlequin in that sense, but it's enough to understand that it's the Joker. She's always laughy, jokey, smiley, etc. But it's a psycho, right? He's an ultimate psycho killer, right? It's like killer clowns and everything else is go with that. You know the trope, you know the motif. That's what's been it. Even like that horror flick about it. It's a clown, right? John Wayne Gacy, clowns and murder, all of those things. It's all a part of it. So suicide, killing yourself. So who is it this killing? Who's killing yourself? It's you killing yourself. It's society. They're promoting self-destruction in the society. I put in the notes on the Facebook, on the YouTube side, I referenced something to look at. Do I have it in this note? No. I think it's peer into the light, my pretties. Peer into the, meaning look into the light, my pretties. It's like hypnotized, like you're being hypnotized, right? And it's let me see, read it. I think I have a little line in it. Yeah, it's called Stare into the Light, my pretties. You can find it. It's a YouTube video. And I'll just read their note that goes with the video. It says, we live in a world of screens. The average adult spends the majority of their waking hours in front of some sort of screen or device. We are enthralled. We are addicted to these machines. How did we get here? Who benefits? What are the cumulative impacts on people, society, and the environment? What may come next if this culture is left unchecked to its end trajectory And is that what we want? Stare into the lights, my pretties, investigates these questions with an urge to return to the real physical world to form a critical view of the technological escalation driven by rapacious and pervasive corporate interests, covering themes of addiction, privacy, surveillance, information manipulation, behavioral modification, and social control. The film lays the foundations as to why we may feel like we're sleep running into some dystopian nightmare with the machines at the helm, because we are, if we don't seriously avert our eyes to stop this culture from destroying what is left of the real world. Okay, so that just might be something worth taking a look at. So going back, it says, if we don't seriously avert our eyes to stop this culture from destroying what is left of the real world. In the movie itself, the creature shoots out little starfish from under what you might consider its armpit, right? And those things attach to the face of the individuals, much like that alien creature. If you happen to see that, some of y'all say, I don't mess with those with it. I get it, I understand. But it's like the thing gets sucked on your face. But okay, so then you have this one eye, so it's a little starfish. Then you have the one eye here, but each one of them is a reflection of the mother starfish, right? And then the mother starfish speaks through the people that she has captured by the little starfish that she has emitted out, and then they right, and then the voice comes through the individual. You don't hear the voice from some loud voice in that big creature. Okay, so the idea is, because if we don't seriously avert our eyes to stop the culture from destroying what is left of the real world, so the idea is the centralized power, right? And here's what's my statement here? There's a quote I'm missing. Oh, here it is. All right. So that very image right there, that image, you have a giant starfish, right? Starfish represents, Imam Oliver Muhammad introduced me to a book many years ago. It's very useful. It applies to us in general, and also in this situation. It's called The Starfish and the Spider. You can look it up. The Starfish and the Spider. And it's talking about different types of leadership, and which one is the most effective. The kind of leadership whose analogy is the spider, where there's central control in this broad net, or the starfish that has this whole, radiating, decentralized way of being, and also this regenerative power as well. That's the starfish. So starfish is a kind of leadership, particularly decentralized leadership. And the fact is that the decentralized leadership is the most powerful form of leadership as opposed to centralized leadership. Let me read the statement. The master key for the dominators is the destruction of free will. The destruction of free will. That's what you see in the movie. You have this giant monster that sends out little starfish like himself that takes over the heads of the individuals, and they become nodes for the big starfish to communicate its will through them. They have no will of their own. That goes back to the zombie Walking Dead motif that's also had its popularity in society recently, because it's a reflection of the same thing that's operating, right? So the idea that the dominators, that's one of the first things they want to destroy, is free will, right? And it's a crazy way of understanding how. I'll just have to put it this way without going too much further. The idea is that destroy your will by making you take away your free will by making you think that whatever you will is your will, and so let's put it like this. Somebody said, yeah, I'm just being myself, right? I'm just being myself. But you look at their clothes, they're wearing the same clothes that everybody else is wearing. They're doing the thing that's most popular, the thing that's popularized for them, whatever it could be, the mannequin challenge, the ice bucket challenge, the bird box challenge, the whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm just being me. I'm just having my own life, right? Then all of your fashion is mass produced. All of your music is mass produced. All your entertainment is mass produced. All your food is mass produced. You know, and it's like, do you? They tell you to do you. Who's telling you to Nike? You know what I'm saying? So that what? So that hundreds of millions of people can spend their money wearing the same thing, the same products, whatever, watching the same videos. You know, so and so broke the internet. What do you mean broke the internet? Because these millions of people all turn their eyes towards that thing, right? And so, but I'm free. It's you're given the false idea that you're making this choice out of your own free will. All right, and that brings us to the other element in this movie. It is an anti-parent satanic movie. It's like whatever. It's like everything. Even my statement there, and somebody can push back more. I'm not doubtless not the majority of you who are on here right now, but young people might say, look at that. You can't have no kind of fun. Everything it's all just fun. It's just entertainment. You parents, y'all out of step with what's going on." Let's say that's the whole thing. You know, don't pay attention to your parents. Fundamentally, every one of those characters, most certainly and especially the main characters, all of their personality, temperament, attitude, animus, or what have you, is grounded in parental problems. Problems with their bad parents, right? So the whole anti-parent scenario is there. And if we talked about it in psychological terms, id, ego, superego, that's the paradigm for this world. That it's a paradigm. If you understand, mashallah, inshallah, may Allah bless us to get a better understanding and share a better understanding. But that's just a categorization, right? The Freudian map was just cut up that way. It doesn't mean that those features don't exist. But the way that they exist and the sources from which they exist and the extent to which they apply, all that has to be qualified by people who understand. But the point is that it is a feature of this society. We talk about id, ego, superego. Superego fundamentally, in the way that I'm pointing out to you now, from the discipline itself, it's really talking about it's the parental mind inside the individual. It's the parental mind inside the individual. That's the superego in psychoanalytical terms. So if I can destroy your respect for parental values or the value of the parent, if I can destroy that in you, then that will set ego and id, set that free. That's the unbridled impulses. So now there's no parent to tell you what not to do. So now you're free to do whatever you want to do, right? And then let those urges and impulses be guided by ego. So all I have to do is feed you stuff. Excuse me. Feed you stuff that feeds your ego, and then your ego being driven by the energy of your impulses. Well, I pretty much got you, because I killed your parents off, right? So even this character Harley Quinn, they don't there's one little part that I didn't read when they were jumping off the plane. There's like a statement. It's not subliminal, but it happens so fast if you're not paying attention. But it's not purely subliminal. It can be read, but nevertheless. So since I don't know what it is, I can't say. But I'm sure I'm very satisfied that it would support the thesis that I'm pointing out, because she has a tattoo. She has a tattoo in whatever cursive writing, or stylized writing, a tattoo right here on her upper left part of her shoulder. And every time I got a chance to kind of see from my vantage point, let's see, what does that say? And it says, "Daddy's little monster." Daddy's little monster. Right. That's what is on her shoulder, right? And then Idris Elba's character, parental problems. This polka dot dude, and that, I think that's a hint at the alphabet community as well. Moving right along. But his problem is his mother. His mother is his problem. And I'm sure there's something, but those were so outstanding that simple enough to say that the part of the object is to undermine respect for parents. That's the impact outside. So you're watching the screen. You're watching the screen, and the people in the audience are the subject of you think you're watching the movie. The movie is doing what it does to you while you're watching it. And if you're unconscious, as sometimes movie watching is called, public dreaming. So really there's a hypnotic nature to movie watching, and a way to get inside entertainment, right? A way to get inside of the individual and make them subject to the values that are being projected from the screen. You're actually being molded and shaped and reformed inside that theater with the values that are being projected. It's not what you see outwardly. Yes, that's a percept. You see that, you experience that happened, this moved this way and that moved that way, but your five sense experience of it is that. But then there's also an intrapsychic experience
60
of
seconds.
It. What is it saying to you about the key features of the of the movie? And it's the behavior of the antagonist, the behavior of the protagonist, the behavior of the hero, the behavior of the anti-hero, the thing that gets approved by the hero, and what is approved and done by the anti-hero, and what's expected of you in your reacting to it. But there's a grammar. It's called semiotics. There's a grammar of that's going on. There's a message that's being communicated to you. And it's not necessarily the message that may seem obvious, because that's not where the message is designed to go to. The message is not designed to go to your critical mind.
10 seconds.
Movies expect you to suspend disbelief. Suspending disbelief means don't be critical. That's what it means. Don't be critical. Just relax. Let it in. Just enjoy. It's just entertainment. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. All right, brothers and sisters, that's going to be it for today. Inshallah, we'll carry on with that by Allah's grace another time. So inshallah, perhaps you get with us on Brother Mark, punch up right quick and give us the announcement on our time together tomorrow. Speak now, if ever hold your peace, my brother. And we will please. I love you and I know you. Let's focus on the announcement. On the announcement, please, sir.
Yes, okay. That'll be tomorrow on IWDM Radio, the Courtship and Marriage Learning Lab with Quran Shakir and myself, and that will start at 4 p.m. your time, Pacific Coast time, 6 p.m. if you're in the Central Standard Time Zone, 7 p.m. if you're in the Eastern. And all you have to do is dial 714-816-4673. It's 714-816-4673. And we are using a text, book by Akila, Nafisa, Rashid, Muslim Marriage Makeover, Modeling Muhammad the Prophet and Making Waves in Your Marriage with the Ripple Effect. And the word ripple is used as an acronym for principles and chapters under that. So you might want to tune in for that. Tomorrow we'll have Imam Fahim for whatever time you can give to us would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, Brother Imam Squad. Excellent broadcast today. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, everybody, have a great day. Assalamu alaikum.